A big part of the Every Acre Counts program is identifying marginal lands and then working through a precision profitability analysis of those acres.
One thing that Every Acre Counts has brought to the farm is the precision profitability analysis part. And I was just wondering, what do you think about that?
Well, it totally amazed me when I saw this, what Kristen put together. Well, first of all, I had no idea of the extent that it would go to. And it is a very amazing snapshot. And like I said, I just assumed my competitors didn't get it, because this, you look at this and it just takes what we've been doing to a totally new level and refines it. And what we were doing was fairly archaic in terms of, kind of the seat of the pants, look at your yield data and decide what you're going to do. But this really, it's an amazing program. It just is.
Craig, do you have anything?
Yeah,
it
just takes it just breaks it down so much more closely about what areas that are really the marginal ones. You get a lot better picture which ones are caught, how much money you lose on those marginal areas. It makes it so more black and white, and which areas you have to take out of production, and when you analyze it, just the cost, what those 15% that are a negative margin, what it costs you over the whole field's, pretty much almost frightening that you're even doing it. You just go, why would you be doing that?
It's quite shocking, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the next question I had is, what were your first impressions or your initial thoughts? And I think you covered that, but if you had something to add, I'd appreciate it. It's just
the complexity and how in depth the thing is. I never dreamt, when we first met with you and Kristen, and I never dreamt that it would be that detailed. And it is an amazing tool.
I just wanted to have Kristen kind of review how she took your data, basically it's your data, and used it to do the analysis. So Go ahead, Kristen. Tell us about that.
I talked to Craig a few times. We worked on transferring the data over into the software that we use, and then kind of worked together to figure out what market price we wanted to use and production costs, and just pairing all that information together to show what that field looks like as is. And then as those marginal lands pop up in that analysis, I'll recreate the field as what it would look like by not farming that, and then take the difference, looking at different conservation programs like the Soil Health and Habitat Program or CRP option, whatever they're wanting to look at, and just showing the total profitability the distribution between the two and where all their expenses are going. That's just not returning anything on their profit or on their investment.
It's a mind-blowing thing how that can all happen and come together at one place. So I also wanted to ask you, Kristen, did the Staley's data, was that all in the same place, or was it easy or challenging, or explain how you can work with about any kind of data? I guess that's where I'm going with that.
So, a lot of stuff is on the cloud, as they say, whether it's in Climate or John Deere. Our software has the capabilities of just connecting directly with that. So just by sharing their or adding me as a partner onto their platform, I can transfer that data over. If it's in the combine, we can just go out there directly with a data card and pull it off there. There's other softwares that they might have it in that we can export that raw data as well. So the feasibility of getting things over to work with our software is relatively easy to do.
Right, and we've provided this free to the producer so far through who you work for, is Pheasants Forever. Through the Soil Health and Habitat Program, as well as the Every Acre Counts program. So you're looking for more acres to do.
Yep.
That's correct. Okay.
I want to provide the service like provide what I did for Staley's here, and just help everyone improve their bottom line and just kind of realize those marginal lands we could do something different with, and it's better for everybody.
So we've tried to establish a really high level of confidentiality with this program, and could you just make a comment about that?
Yeah, so if anything, if we're not going to share any of anybody's data or the numbers off any of it, you know, at some point, if there's a really good example of a marginal land with a change in profitability, we might ask, like, can we put this on our presentation? But we'll never do anything like that without the grower's consent in the first place. And your name will never be attached to anything that's put out in public. So
Right.
no one ever sees the information besides mostly me, to be honest.
So let's move on to Every Acre Counts and the precision profitability analysis. I see we have your report there today, and what do you think about that process?
Well, it's just a great analysis in determining what acres aren't productive on my farm ground. Just gave me a whole different, taking the historic yields off it and soil types and everything to process that and to realize what is non-productive ground and how we gotta make it pay for itself there.
So when you first saw that report, what were your initial thoughts?
A little overwhelming, but with the amount of data that goes in to determine those marginal or poor returning acres, there's a lot of data that goes into it to determine that, and it's maybe not as bad as I thought in certain spots, but to realize that we can turn it around. There are ways to improve it.
So when you first saw those reports from the Every Acre Counts precision profitability analysis, what were your first impressions?
My first impression was data overload for the analysis. And this coming from a person who likes to look at lots of data. And so after I moved from that point, I said to myself, wait a minute, we generated all this data from our farm, so nothing was invented here. Now it's been taken, it's been put into a palatable form. It's incumbent on us to say, what can we make use of here, and how, and since it's all of our own information and no one else's, let's put it to work. And so we moved pretty quickly off of the sticker shock of all the data being put into one source to, there's a lot of useful stuff. Let's break it down and let's make it actionable.
Well, we're going to get in and talk about Every Acre Counts a little bit, and that precision profitability analysis that we did on some of your fields on your farm. What did you think about that?
I thought it was excellent. I mean, you always know. I mean, everybody knows which part of their fields are not the productive parts, but you know, when you can really put a number to all that and the different options of, okay, if I did this, you know, what effect does that have on the overall picture? You know, after seeing that, a lot of those I've, you know, changed my practice on that. So then I got, you know, I can focus my inputs on the better parts of the field. My yield, I've, you know, technically I'm farming a few less acres, but for getting the same amount of bushel. And then the other areas I'm able to find a different purpose for it and generate, you know, slowly, but it's starting to generate its own, carry itself anyway. Before it was always a drag.
So when we brought the precision profitability analysis report to you that day that Kristen and I came, what were your initial impressions? Just the first time you seen it and you kind of went through it with us a little bit. What were you thinking?
I was thinking, well, that's a big book of, you know, information there. But yeah, I was just impressed. I've been keeping all the, you know, the historical yields and all that, and then what you guys were able to do to put real numbers to it, and it was my numbers. It was, you know, so it's kind of like the, you know, test plot. It always does better. You know, you like to see it on your field and not.
Right.
You know, because then it's a true test of how it does on there, and that kind of just really opened my eyes more to the actual dollars that are either walking away from the farm.
Have you used any of that information to change things on your farm, or maybe treat a field a different way, or explain kind of a little bit about.
Yeah, I mean, I started, well, I got a feel that I'm trying to prep to get established for the Every Acre Counts.
Yep.
Just because it's, areas that I'm just tired of trying, bang my head against the wall, trying to get that part there, back in order. So, and then just other fields, just looking at each one as its own zone is essentially kind of what it showed me.
Going to talk about the Every Acre Counts program a little more specifically here, and one thing that that program does for producers that choose to participate is the precision profitability analysis. And we just kind of wondered what you thought about that process and the report and the data that you received from that.
It was, let me go first, because it was one that I told the guys I could take a map of our fields. I've been doing this for 40 years now, and I can draw every acre, or not every acre, but I could draw the areas where I know we're having trouble. And then Alex worked through that program, and it brought it down to quantify it by the acre. So it really helped to nail it down as to just exactly what you needed to do. And we talked with our landlords and told them what we were thinking about. And we said it won't affect your rent, but we're going to lose less on this ground by doing this and give it a chance to turn it around so it becomes more profitable. And they were all on board with it. In fact, they were very happy to see it because they know we're taking care of their land as if it's our own, and we're looking long term. I'll let Alex go into more of the detail because he handled all of the data transfer and everything with them. But as far as anybody asking questions about it, I would say get on the list, get it done as fast as you can, and utilize it because it's a phenomenal program. And then it's worked into other things with some subsidies on some grass, the SH, I don't know, I don't remember how all that stuff ties together, but you know what I'm saying, one thing leads to another, and these people are all knowledgeable on where you might get a grant or a subsidy or something on some of these things, and I would say get on this program as fast as you can get on it. It's a tremendous tool to use.
It goes back to continuing to evolve what you do on the farm, taking that pretty picture, that yield map, your planning data, your inputs, and taking it to the next level and having that drive decisions. Kristen is who I worked a lot with putting all that data together, and having her put that in a booklet that takes my dad's vision. Okay, these are the problem areas, and here's how big of a problem they are. Here's the amount of money you are losing that you're spending that you wouldn't have to, and just on a cash flow, situation, how much less dollars we have to invest in those acres overall as a farm, and it puts it in black and white, and it takes the emotion out of it, because it's hard to pull acres out of production. It's just, as a producer, it's hard to do that,
especially when corn is $7.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not going to stay there forever. So
yeah. So that helps alleviate some of that emotional connection to those acres. Like, why would I want to keep planting through these, spraying through these, everything, when I'm not doing nothing but going backwards, and the soil's continuing to go backwards, and these spots are getting bigger. And
just to add into that, or tag on to that, it made our operation more efficient this spring because we weren't trying to deal with these problem acres. They were already scored off, and we knew where the boundaries were going to be, and it made planting, spraying, everything better.
So let's go back to that day that we brought the report to you, and that was the first time basically that you had seen it. Mm-hmm. We're interested in your very first impressions when you just started to look at each field and look at the analysis that was provided. What was your first impressions?
Overwhelming. Like I said, I could pretty much direct you to the problem areas of most fields, but in my case, some of them surprised me, but then looking back through data, it's like, okay, I see how it's coming this way. And some of them, probably the scope of them was much bigger than I anticipated. And one thing that we're guilty of, and probably most producers, according to what we've found out, they want to go to take their salt out, they go right to the edge of the salt instead of going out farther into the field to give you that buffer zone, so you're going to hold it back there. That was an eye-opener for me, and that how many acres it took on some of these things. But I'm very comfortable that we did it now, because what's left in those fields looks to be high producing and huge towards keeping our APHs even higher than we have them now in the long run. So much is driven off crop insurance now that that's going to be a huge part of this program as well. Benefit of it, I should say.
Yeah. You know, it was overwhelming to see it, but also kind of gave you a roadmap on a direction to move forward to start correcting some of these areas and improve them. Because sometimes it's easy to get lost in the noise of all the things going on within agriculture, all the different management practices, everything, and then you can kind of just lock up and not know what to do. Where having that binder kind of gives you a summary of what's going on your operation and gives you some tools to start taking some action and where to take action first. Because it clearly shows that the economic situation of every single field and can help drive decisions to improve your bottom line overall.